Okay, I'm Dr. Richard Clay. I'm an 18th century art historian who somehow has found his way to being the co-director of do.collaboration at the University of Birmingham. My other co-director is Dr. Henry Chapman, who is an archaeologist, and together we lead this major digital investment.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the do.collaboration project?
Do.collaboration is the home to a whole range of wider projects. The biggest of our projects is the Digital Heritage Demonstrator, which is funded by the European Regional Development Fund. It's a £2.4 million project. It's paid for the space that we're sitting in and for a team who are working in collaboration with a number of different cultural organisations, which include the Birmingham Museum Trust, which is the biggest museum service in England, the Library of Birmingham, which is the biggest public library in Europe, or at least will be when it opens in September. Ironbridge Gorge Museum Trust, which is based at a World Heritage Site, and the Hive at Worcester, which is a new £60 million library and archive service in, well, Worcester. So this is the main project that we're running at the moment as an 18-month-old team, and it involves working not just in collaboration with the cultural sector, but also with digital small and medium-sized enterprise, or SMEs. And that's really why the Europeans are funding us, and that's been one of the drivers to get support from the Garfield Weston Foundation and from Michael Chowan, a visionary millionaire donor who believe, like we do, that it's important for the Academy to have impact outside of its walls and to impact not just on the cultural sector but also on the economy. So for SMEs, for them, we offer, through this major project that we host, a route for them to collaborate with cultural organisations. And you've got to understand that the heritage market in the UK has been assessed by Oxford Econometrics as being worth £12.4 billion a year. Now, we actually think that that's an underestimate for a range of reasons that I won't go into now, but it's still a significant figure. That makes the cultural sector more valuable to the economy in terms of value added than automotives or the advertising industry. Now, for an SME to be able to gain access to that market is an incredible opportunity, which would probably explain why we've had such interest from the SME sector in the region. That if you're an SME, how do you get to work with the biggest public library in Europe? It's quite hard if you're small to figure out who to talk to. What we can help with is assisting SMEs to build relationships with our cultural partners, help them to understand the market and therefore deliver to it, and they can do that regionally and take that knowledge and transfer it across nationally and potentially internationally. Actually, for the cultural partners there are benefits too, because if you're a big cultural organisation, actually the offer that's out there amongst the SME sector is quite difficult to understand. It's quite difficult for you to know who to approach, to know who will deliver, and to be able to imagine what they can deliver. And that's again where we come in. We're the honest brokers who can sit between the sectors and help hook them up together. Now, of course, from the Academy's point of view, we have a lot to gain too. We've got fantastic human-computer interaction researchers here who study the way that people deal with interfaces, and bringing in users from the cultural sector in the most diverse city in Britain and the youngest city in Europe is a fantastic opportunity to conduct research. We are based in kind of a petri dish, if you like, in Birmingham for conducting HCI research. So there's clear research benefits there for us. There are also research benefits in terms of looking at the way in which we collaborate and approaching it either from an arts and humanities angle or a sociological point of view, and exploring how we are impacting on different organisations and on the economy more broadly. Then there's attraction for arts and humanities scholars who are particularly adept at providing content, and they know about history, they know about philosophy, they know about the objects and the stories that the cultural organisations are trying to explore and encourage their audiences to explore. So from our point of view, it's about having impact, it's about entering into dialogue with other sectors, which in a selfish, academic kind of a way is enormously fruitful for us. It's when we work across sectors that we find ourselves being asked questions that we would never have imagined if we hadn't come into these new relationships. That the Academy does have interesting debates within its walls, but actually it's when you get challenged from outside that you often come back and have to reconsider your own research. Now, for the SMEs, we're attractive to work with partly because of our computer science expertise, including HCI, but also because as a major organisation that's over 100 years old, we can afford to develop the kind of resource we've developed here. An SME can't afford to buy a touch table, whether it's 2D or 3D, they just can't afford to take the risk and therefore be able to develop software that offers them access to the kinds of markets we want to help them reach. If they work with us, they can access all of this hardware, all of this software, and get advice from us. So one of the elements of the project that we're doing as the Digital Heritage Demonstrator is to develop prototype software, and our home team, as it were, is doing that with our cultural partners, but then we make the software available to SMEs and we advise them on how they can take it further, develop it further. But we also do business assists for the partner SMEs who are part of a growing network. And we're only 18 months old, but we've done a whole range of business assists. So for example, working with a business to explore with them how you could use Connect to allow visitors to a gallery to navigate a map and do it by gesture, and then writing a report with them, exploring with them how the software works, and that's something they can then potentially take to market, and that's for them to explore in future. So this is a really important aspect of what we do, is the business assist, but also important are the collaboration and knowledge exchange events that we run on the last Wednesday of every month. And that, as you might have noticed, is an acronym for CAKE, and we do serve cake as well, so it is literally a do cake morning, and we find that cake actually helps people do collaboration and knowledge exchange. It's a very informal encounter. People come in from the three sectors, there are very short presentations, sometimes this is what we're doing, sometimes it's this is what we've done and we don't know how to take it further, or this is what we've done and we want to take it here, has anyone got any ideas? And it's a forum where the three sectors, cultural organisations, the SMEs and the Academy come together and relationships start to develop. And that's our core project, but we also have other projects. So we've got a £250,000 Arts and Humanities Research Council fund for a project that's called the Collaborative Arts Triple Helix, and that's a mouthful, but we deliberately chose the name so that it would form an acronym that's memorable, CATH, somebody's first name. Our next project, probably Bob, we just don't know what it stands for yet. So that's a project where we're bringing into a series of workshops the three sectors and trying to broker triplets, we call them, which is to say small teams with representatives from each of the three sectors. And then we're offering them a £4,000 voucher. That means you can buy time out from an SME and from a cultural organisation, and they can work with an academic to develop a digital prototype. Now that project's now maybe 8 weeks old, something like that. We had our first workshop and we were staggered by the interest. We were expecting 20 people, we had 70 people. And actually, of those 70 people, we've already got more applicants to do triplets than we can afford to fund. But what we're suspecting is that they'll just run the projects anyway because they're excited by how the collaboration works. Part of that project is studying how the collaboration works. So we have a research associate who's observing how these triplets emerge, what the barriers are to collaboration, and starting to think about how we can write recommendations at the end of the project for sustainable and meaningful triple sector collaboration for the future. And in addition, we have another project which is EU funded. It's Smart Cultures. We're one of 13 institutions across Europe, and this project's led by our business development manager, Gino Bellavia, and they're looking at how Triple Helix is working as a form of collaboration between three sectors in all of these different countries across the EU. So it's a kind of meta-analysis of where EU funding has actually had an impact, and an analysis of how future funding could best be targeted to have the maximum academic and economic, social and cultural impact. So that's what do.